Hello, everybody. You missed a stink bug attack. And if you're not from I don't know if they have stink bugs everywhere in the US, but I can tell you one thing. On the East Coast, they're a freaking catastrophe. And when this time of year comes about, it's just dive bombing all the time. And of course, I just got dive bombed right here at my desk, which is completely ridiculous. Hello, sorry I'm a little late. Hello, everybody. Hey, Sissy, how is it going in Louisiana? I haven't had a chance to ask how you're doing, and that's because I'm super lame and not the best friend. I apologize. But I'd love to know how it's going for you in the Big Easy with the big storm that came through, and let us all know how it's going. In the meantime, I'm going to bring Nikki on. Hopefully. I never really know.
Hello.
Oh, good. Thank you for being here, because if not, I getting back to normal. I'm so happy to hear that. I knew that the power was supposed to be out for a long time, but I didn't exactly know what that meant. So I'm glad that things are returning. How are you, my friend?
I am good. I managed to pull off a savory pot roast with buttered mashed potatoes and caramelized broccoli and Brussels sprouts with bacon bits.
Oh. I ate a bag of Lay's at dude.
Oh, no, I haven't eaten. No, I haven't eaten. My husband just walked in. I just said, there's this, and this. If you want gravy, you have to make gravy. I don't make gravy well.
I think gravy is an art. Not everybody. I mean, you can be a really good chef in all other ways and make crappy ass gravy.
And I don't eat. He makes it with cornstarch for me so that it's gluten free. And there's an art to working with cornstarch even more so. So you can't just throw everything in the skillet and be like, woohoo, yeah. So yeah.
I'm right. Yeah, I don't know about any of that. I just don't make gravy. And that's it. And Glenn will actually say, do you want me to make the gravy? And I'm like, I don't even really eat gravy. So if you want gravy, you're on it on your own. But I'm not really a pot roast fan. I did go through a pot roast phase when I was pregnant, 86 years ago.
Yes, sissy, there's infinite whisking. And he literally said, you have to stand there. And I was like, okay. He's like, no, you have to stand there. And I was like, he's like, until you want the consistency. And I was like, wait, what? I'm like, don't they make a machine for this?
This is why I also don't caramelize my own onions. It's that same tedium of la, 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 la. I'm over it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Not for any meal in the world. It's just not happening.
That's how you start a meal, Misty.
No, this is how I start a meal.
Caramelizing.
I like to cook.
Caramelizing onions is how you start a meal.
No, it's
and
not.
Then you go, what are we cooking?
Oh, no. I mean, I'm a big fan of opening up the refrigerator or the cupboard or both and being like, what are we doing today? Because we really don't have anything, so I have to make magic happen. Never in creating magic am I like, oh, let me just chill out and caramelize some onions. It's not happening. It's 0.0 times is that going to happen. No. Mm-mm.
You're so funny.
I do like a good pickled onion, and that's a different story.
And with tips, burnt ends on a taco.
Yeah. Thinly sliced avocado.
Ooh, I can't do that. You're trying to kill me.
Well, maybe, but.
Yes, okay. People, I am allergic to avocado.
You're not the only person I know that's allergic to avocado. But
before you ask, yes, that means that I don't eat guacamole, because That is the
That's
main
product.
ingredient.
Yeah, that's
Because I have been asked that.
I know you have. I can hear it.
So you don't eat guacamole? No, no. How do I explain that? No.
No. Yeah, yeah. It's like when I say I'm allergic to soy sauce and they say I'm allergic to soy and they tell me don't worry, it's gluten free. And I'm like, it's a lot. It's a lot. But, you know, again, pandemic gifts. I've gotten more joy out of cooking, but less joy out of cleaning it up. So, like, that's a completely different story. I mean, I just hate it. Like, I've actually ordered meal delivery now because I cannot cook the same thing one more time, and I certainly can't clean up after it ever again. Done. Done.
Oh, okay. This is good to know because I'm not going to leave you behind in the apocalypse, Misty. I'm not. I'm not. Whew. But we're
Well,
gonna have to we're gonna have to find a warrior survival skill for you.
we're gonna have to like hole up and like I don't know, Nobu. I think that's what we have to be. It's the
No,
zombie
boo, no.
apocalypse. Where are we gonna hide? I'll be like, French Laundry.
Nobu in a Four Seasons where
Isn't that where
there's
everybody should wait out the zombie apocalypse?
gonna have to just gonna have to get you some, some very special. They're gonna be like, now why is she coming? I'm like, no, 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 she can do this thing. Trust me. Yes, she can do this thing. And it's gonna be hush, Brian. Hush.
Listen, I can shoot. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'll take out zombies. I dream about it almost every night. Like I'm good for that. Like that's okay. But I do have certain creature comforts. Like there will be a list. I will, yes, Sissy, have the coconut aminos. I mean, I don't think it's a lot to ask. I don't. It's just the way I roll. Everyone's
Yeah.
different. Everyone brings a little something different to the party.
Yes, they do. They do. All things have value.
See, all high-strung people have value too. Just saying.
All high-strung people.
See,
Um, Speaking of, where are we on planet Earth right now? Like what is going on?
uh-oh. Has your positivity bent been thwarted?
No, no,
I
no,
never.
no. My
Um,
children are acting like they haven't eaten in weeks because they're waiting for Carrie to just get his work clothes off.
I
I
mean,
mean,
listen, you've got 29 boys in that house. Like, I would always have like a piece of meat to throw at them or something.
yes, Brian, I am laughing at you because you're hilarious. And we
So,
always want to make sure that it's a learning process for you. Just
indeed,
weird, random, little known facts. We
get,
want to make sure that we always cover that for you.
get to know about your hosts before we just dive right in. You know, you can tell what kind of mood we're in, if we've eaten, if we've not, and you can tell how spicy the show is going to be based on that typically. But where are we in the world right now? I feel like I'm going to say this out loud, but
Hey, Everly.
a few days ago, I woke up and I was like, I'm feeling like we could be headed toward a brighter side of COVID. I mean, not the rest of the shit, but
Okay.
I definitely felt almost like a little bit of a weight was lifted. Now, don't get me wrong. I have nothing to substantiate this. The numbers are still going up. People are still crazy. But I don't know. It's kind of like when right before it started and I was like, this is going to be bad. And everybody looked at me and said, you are the worst. You are negative Nelly. You are all these other things. And then I was like, snap. Here we are. So for some reason right now, I'm feeling a little bit more positive about it. And I'm going to run with that.
And I'm gonna interject just little moments of really cute, compassionate stuff. So, did you see Everly's post? Her, I don't want to say the wrong thing, Everly, so certainly correct me. Her person, whom they're so cute, her person makes her coffee with
Cute.
with she makes the pistachio milk, people, to put in her very special coffee that sends Everly on her way every morning, and she writes cute little notes on top of the lid, and I saw it and I was like, OMG, super cute black Care Bear love. Can't even stand it.
I did the same thing. I was like,
It was so, it
oh,
stood out.
adorable. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes,
seriously,
it's
Everly, like
so
that is,
cute.
that's like,
That's
huzzah.
love. That's love.
Yeah, and I think that, we see so many, examples of bad couples and fake couples, and, you know, and Everly, sorry, we're like totally putting you on blast here, but when you see pictures of Everly and her partner, you just see like, you definitely see joy. And that, it's just really exciting to see. So, I mean, and she must really like you to put up with all this bloody shit all the time. So, I'm just saying.
It's it was, but it's also not like this big. Like the thing that was so adorable was it's not like this big thing. It's not like, oh, let me buy my baby a Cadillac, and then let me buy her a fur coat, and then,
Well, if you write
no.
top of a Cadillac, it loses value. Like, I really wouldn't do that.
So, um, it was something very simple. It was a thing to start her day. And it's just like that thing, and you carry it around with you, and like all morning, I'd be like, oh, look, my baby loves me. I'm gonna take a sip because my baby loves me. Oh, okay, yeah. It was just very simple. It wasn't this big, long, drawn out thing. It was just like, yep, my baby loves me. And I love her back. So, yeah, amazing example of just pure, unadulterated love.
But isn't it the little things though? Like the car is nice. I mean, if Glenn came in and he was like, "Hey, I bought you a McLaren today," I would certainly not turn it down. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, babe, that's just a little bit much for me." But you know,
Where's the driver?
I probably can't see over the steering wheel in a McLaren because I can't see over the steering wheel in a Corvette because the bucket seats are not made for small people, and that
No, they're
phone
not.
books to prop yourself up in
Then
a
you can't
high
reach the
performance
pedal.
sports car is ridiculous. So
No, they're
I
not. They're really actually made for long-legged people. They're
I,
actually made, yeah.
I know this because I was like this.
Yeah, okay, Brian, this is a weird little known fact. Sports cars are actually made for long-legged people.
Which is
Um,
dumb because it's the short people that buy them. I'm just saying.
yeah.
So, but when he does something little, like sends me a text with just a heart, like that is a big deal to me. And if he like is a Bitmoji, then I'm like, oh man, he even took the time to change the clothes on the Bitmoji so it was season appropriate. Like this is love. Like those little things go very, very far. I mean, that's just me, but I'm just saying.
No, I think for me, when Misty and I, because Misty and I say good morning, first of all. Misty and I say good morning by sending each other news stories.
And at any time in the morning.
So if I'm up and I'm like, oh, she's on East Coast time, she must be up if I'm up. So, um, no, they
Yeah, but
don't, Brian. They pull you
right,
away. They pull you
you still
away
can't
from
reach
the
the pedal.
pedal, and the ergonomics of the seat. Because I had, when I love this car, and one day I'm going to get it again, except it's going to be look much better. I had a Datsun 280Z when I lived in Texas.
Oh, always wanted to see.
Yeah, and they're just so, because you're, Brian, don't make me come through this Instagram. The whole point, Brian, was
They
they
were talking
work for
about me.
tall people. They work for tall people,
Well,
Brian.
and the
That was the
seat,
whole point.
because the seat is like a chasm, and the front edge of it is it's slanted like this. So I'm
Right.
like Lily Tomlin in the whatever that skit was where she would sit in the big chair and be the little kid.
Oh,
That's the way
oh,
I am.
Lilith Ann.
Yes, in a sports car. It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you know, when you're spending that kind of money, they should be making you a custom seat. I'm just saying.
And Brian, I am deceptive when I am sitting. Misty and I are the same height when I am sitting, but my legs are 34 inches long.
I don't even think we're the same height when we're sitting, because I think you're shorter than me when we sit. And then because your legs are 6'1". I mean, like, it's
My
ridiculous.
my legs are 34 inches. So I had a Datsun 280Z. I do feel
Yes.
like the sunken place because of the ergonomics of the seat. They are to lean back. They're made. Remember that commercial? It was a TV commercial, and the guy is sitting in this all black room in front of this massive TV with his sunglasses on, and he's sitting there, and the sound of the TV. I don't remember what that.
It was
Yes, that is what.
the Maxell or Magnavox. It's
Yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah. I think it was
sound.
Magnavox. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what sports cars are made for. And then my ex-husband, my kid's father, he had at one point a 68 Shelby Fastback Mustang.
Shut up. Oh, that Shelby. Mm.
Oh yeah, his dad had one too, and the one his dad had, oh, they only made 500. It had some big massive engine, and so yeah, so
And
yes, it was, yes. So, but they were all the same, and they're all designed. They're not designed for comfort. They're designed for the experience of driving a muscle car.
well, and that's the whole point. Like, and this is why I actually don't really want a sports car, because I'm supposed to follow the rules. And if I'm supposed to follow the rules, I can't drive it the way I want to drive it, which is like I'm being chased. I want to drive like I am seriously in a race at all times. That would be joy. So if I had a McLaren, I don't want to drive it to grocery stores because there's not a trunk big enough to put groceries in. I want to drive it until the paint blows off. Like, I want to break the sound barrier. And so I need to be able to fully depress the gas pedal. I don't
Poor
know,
Glenn.
Brian. I'm not sure.
Poor
But
Glenn.
I'd love to find, like, my dream is to drive like a super sports car through the salt flats. Like, that is something that I want to do. There was this driver, I forgot her name, a couple years ago. She actually exploded because she was trying to go the fastest ever through the salt flats. I want to say her car went something like 400 miles an hour, and then it just blew up into dust. And I'm like, if you're going to go, like, that's the way to go.
Brian.
I mean, and I'm not, listen, I'm not like a gearhead or anything. Like, if we were talking about jet engines, that might be something different. But
Right.
like cars, I'm like, but like to hear the vroom vroom and then I'm driving it, oh, hands down. Give it to me. I'm driving the paint right off of it. Right to jail.
Dude, you better keep going. Keep going. Because I don't think there's Nobu in jail.
This is a problem.
This is a problem.
The
Yes.
problem, I would not do well in jail. First
No.
of all, not the right color orange jumpsuit for me. I need something more warm, and the prison jumpsuits look to be a little cool. And then they're scratchy. Not good. Not so bueno. Continue.
All right. So we do actually have to bring you some news.
We do?
Not like news. Yes, we do. We do. We have to talk about the bad and the good. We're gonna keep throwing some good in there, but this is not so good because everybody knows there's been a spike in crime across the country, and there has been a significant spike in the killing of Black women.
Yes.
And this is something that we talked about from a slightly different perspective last week when we were talking about, the TikTok, social media, maybe it wasn't TikTok, but the social media, you know, white, blonde, killed, and it was just everywhere. And let me be clear, like the senseless death of any person is not okay. But we know that there is a significant sense of exposure when it's a white female and of a certain age and of a certain look. But when you can stand and you can have a rally because your 19-year-old daughter is shot to death leaving a party, and the person who created the gathering, brought the gathering together, can name off 92 Black women that have been killed in a year, there's something wrong with that. And I'm sorry, it's women and girls, because I think one of the youngest victims was 10 years old, shot by her mother's boyfriend. The vast majority of Black women killed are killed by, the majority are killed by someone they know. A significant percentage are killed by an intimate partner. And so this is an issue, and it's also because if whatever escalates in, you know, Gen Pop, yes, you are correct, Sissy. Excuse me, because Black women and trans women barely get a blip. And there is a rash of killings for transgendered and trans women. I know there is in Chicago. And
So
so, go ahead.
just wanted to say, I was reading something, I think Soledad O'Brien posted it, but they were talking about this big, you know, we're told that there's this big high blip in crime across the board, but it really actually, it's fairly concentrated in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and the reason why they were talking about this is because it's painted as if this is a blue state situation. So it's states with blue governors or blue mayors,
Mm-hmm.
with blue mayors. It's actually not the case. The biggest jump was in Wisconsin, I believe. It's a 62% jump in fatal crimes, gun crimes in particular. So I'm not saying that there hasn't been a change. And in Chicago, the murder rate is way up.
Yes.
But when you take it across, when you look at the narrative that's being painted, and I just wanted to point this out because I think at this point we have to be very, very clear. The narrative that's being painted is not exactly crystal clear true. But another thing I want to say, just as a foil to this, it is absolutely a problem. There is absolutely a problem. We know this. Black women, Black trans women, always, if you get a blip, you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to take that farther and say that women in general,
Mm-hmm.
crimes against women have been up over the past 5 years by a big number. I don't have it offhand, but I'll look it up. Harmony. But if you're around, but what really gets me about it is that we look at the legislation that's being put out in general. If we care about women, we should care about all women, even if they're just vessels for the children that we're going to abandon later. Just thinking about Texas legislation here. We need to care about all women, and we need to be looking out for all women, and all women includes trans women, because I don't care. Fight me about it. Come fight me. Trans women are women. That's it. So across the board, we have a problem here. And I do believe that it is a war on women in general. I feel like the goal is to keep us suppressed and repressed and stick us in our corners and tell us what we can and cannot do, because we want to go back to the old days of Beaver Cleaver land. June Cleaver was not happy. She did not want to wear that dress. She did not want to wear that apron. And she really, really hated her husband. I'm just saying. I didn't like him either.
I think it's I find it always very interesting when people are uncomfortable with something that really doesn't have anything to do with them. Um, it's more than just imposing one's will onto someone, and you can say, ah, to be gay is wrong, or to be transgendered is wrong, and to be, like you can say all of these things, and that's fine, and that can be your position, and you can sit there and you can say that. Much like I said, brain surgery and abortions are the same thing to me, and when it comes to Christianity, because somewhere along the way, whatever divine being you believe in, they bestowed someone the power, the understanding, the skill set to perform this task. So I don't differentiate between those. And I really don't. Like, that's just science to me. The ability to give an abortion or to perform an abortion, the ability to perform brain surgery, those are, the ability to build an electric car. That's just someone who tapped into a skill set that was there. To use the same argument, God doesn't like gay people, or
Right.
that's not what I'm like, are you lunching with the Jesus at Nobu every Wednesday? Are you sitting down and
Yeah.
having this intimate, and don't talk to me about prayer, because that's not lunch at Nobu. So you're sitting down and you're having this intimate conversation that that you're so special that he tells you his deep dark secrets, and you are, you know, what do you call it? You're ego driven because, of course, everyone assumes that Jesus was a man. And you sit and you lunch at Nobu with Jesus and his father, and they send you a handwritten list of all the stuff that they don't like. And it is your job. And and I'm like, so then why are they here? Why are they here if they're such abominations? If we're abominations because we're black, if that person over there is an abomination because they have alopecia.
Listen,
I
you
mean, like,
know
at
how I
what point?
feel about religion. I mean, it's control, and if I'm offending anybody, I apologize, but I'm very, very solid in my opinion on religion, and we can't really prove any of it anyway. So I'm okay with that. But again, if we're talking about the big person, whoever it is, man, woman, energy, flying spaghetti monster, whatever it is, if we're talking about them being perfect and doing perfect things and all of this, then you have to own the fact that even with an element of corruption here and there, you have to own that perhaps things are the way they are in terms of people groups, this, that, the other thing, because that's the way it was supposed to be. And it is us that have perverted things to make right, wrong, create these binaries that don't really exist. These constructs that serve only to keep people under other people's thumbs. We have to own that. If you truly believe that God is infallible, that's it.
Sissy says, can we pass a law that men have to get a vasectomy at 18? How about that? I No, I don't I think that's the same thing. I think I understand what you're saying in that point. I absolutely understand what you're saying with that point. But that's not the issue. The issue is not about men having vasectomies. The issue is these are steps of control. It doesn't have anything to do with men. These are just avenues that people are pulling out of their utility belts in an effort to control women who they see as subservient,
Well, who's
and
controlling?
that they
Women are
and
controlling themselves. Well, I mean,
but
you know what I mean. That's not,
no, I understand. But no, but if I'm correct in your thinking, it's that they're very much, there are women who very much want to keep their standing in society, and they will do whatever it takes, even if it's against their own best interest.
Sure, no doubt.
And so, and that's why people get really stuck on why would a woman make this choice. I know it's very infuriating, but the issue is not men being forced to have vasectomies at 18, because because at 18 you're freaking wet behind the ears. You don't know anything. You don't know poop. You don't know poop. The issue is with, if you take away like people just trying to be controlled, the issue with pregnancy and kids, men have never been
Held
held accountable. They it
100%.
they were, somewhere along the way it just became okay. There was, for men to not have to be accountable.
Right.
And there are many men who are absolutely unequivocally accountable. And so that is not who I'm talking about. So don't be like running around on the Facebook and the IG talking about, well, Nikki said, because I didn't say that. But men, and especially black men, they don't have to be, they were let off the hook. They were forced off the hook. We've had this conversation where when black men came back from the war, they could not get jobs and they could not provide for their families. The woman could not get welfare or help from the government if there was a man living in her home. They were literally pigeonholed into separating families. That's different than the man just being like, yeah, I'm good. The government goes further to say all of the benefits are around keeping a woman in a certain position.
Sure.
You can have this money, you can have these food stamps, but you cannot work. And the more kids you have, the more food stamps and the more assistance you get. Do some people abuse that? Have some people abuse that? Absolutely. For some, was it an absolute necessity? Absolutely. So it's not about making men have vasectomies. It's about holding men just as responsible for procreation and children as women are held by choice. Women are the ones who carry the babies, but that doesn't make them good mothers. Let's be clear about that. But the vasectomy doesn't really, that's not the issue. It's sort of like, and I get it, and this is an extreme example, it's sort of like forced castration. And
It's a bit extreme. I think
it's
there's more low-hanging fruit examples than that. I mean, think about it. If you think about the fact that really women are the ones in charge of birth control, they have to be, because they're the ones that are going to be held accountable.
correct.
If, putting a vasectomy on the table, vasectomies are fairly easy to reverse, not always perfectly easy, and sometimes not reversible. But, you can have the same issue with a pill.
But, and Misty, that procedure would be perfected if that was on the table. That
That's
vasectomy,
true.
there would be, it would be
You would
foolproof.
actually like go to McDonald's and you would be like, I would like a filet o fish, some fries, and a vasectomy, and then you would walk under a light, and then it would be done. Like there would be no cutting.
Yeah, no.
There would be nothing.
They would have that completely perfected if that was even on. There is a pill for men. There is a pill for men. They don't want to deal with the side effects.
Oh,
There
pobrecitos, they don't want
there
to put the side of it.
there tries yes. There is a pill for men. They
Best album title ever. French fries and vasectomy. That's my next band, actually.
they
Saying.
did a study, and the men, some of the symptoms that they experienced were very similar to what women experience during like the first month or so. I don't know. Brian, are you listening? When a woman goes on to the pill, especially back in the day, it takes about 6 weeks.
That's what that's called. I mean,
It takes about 6 weeks for the body to regulate. You might
if
have
it
some
does.
nausea. You might, yeah. For some people, it doesn't. There's so many different options for the pill right now. There's so many low but effective doses. I was on the pill for 6 weeks, thought I was going to lose all my gray matter. And I was like, okay, and done with that. So And some people are on it and they're fine and it doesn't, it doesn't do anything. And I shouldn't say it doesn't do anything. It doesn't affect them in a way. Um, it Men didn't like the side effects. And these weren't like grow another horn, get transported into another, galaxy far, far away. No, these were just like, you feel a little groggy, you might have a little bit of, just, it's hormonal.
Yeah, and you know
And
what?
they didn't like it.
Women are told, suck it up, okay? I don't want to hear it.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, there are other, I know someone who was on Depo Provera for over 10 years. And then when she wanted to have kids, that was not an option.
Closed.
It was not an option. Age was a bit of a factor, but um, no, I mean, and I, she got the perfect storm because her partner is also an issue. He had a low sperm count, so they were definitely the perfect storm. But we've talked, and it's like she was on Depo Provera for 10 years. She did not have a cycle for most of that time.
Well, you're not supposed to, I don't think. That's the
It's
point.
it's supposed to minimize it for sure,
Yeah,
but it's like you're talking
it,
about Depo, sissy.
yeah, it's actually
Um,
terrible. I, as a person with endometriosis, that was one of the things that they were pushing in the 90s. Like, oh man, if you take this, you're gonna feel much better. And I was like, no. I mean, the fact that the male doctor is telling me that it's like super breezy, it's gonna be easy, it's gonna be,
right.
there may be a few side effects, like you might want to kill yourself, kill others. You may not ever have any normal progesterone function, and I forgot what the other one was. I was just like, no. And he thought I was just like being contrary. I remember him looking at me, and that was the other thing, Annie. Gaining 50 pounds, I think there's always a weight gain associated with it, but I think the average is something like 30 pounds. Oh, hell no. That wasn't happening.
That's a lot.
That's
That's
a
a
lot.
lot.
On my frame, could you imagine?
That's a
And
lot.
again, for some people, and don't get me wrong, I was pretty desperate at that point, but I still wasn't, my vanity overcame my desperation, but I was much more concerned about long-term side effects that could never be repaired or recovered from. And, that's a big deal. So that the men have a pill available. Hello, Nanette. The fact that men have a pill available that they prefer not to take because it makes them feel sad for 6 whole weeks. Like it's a little bit lost on me. The compassion is out the door. That's all I'm saying.
And so when I was in Texas, so this was many, many years ago, I was 20 or 21, and I was dancing for Dallas Black Dance, and I was teaching at this middle school. And they were putting this, definitely had an underserved population, and they were giving those girls Depo.
Mm-hmm.
7th grade. They
Like
were giving
Andy in underserved.
those girls, giving those girls Depo. And their argument was better for them to not get pregnant.
Yeah. And I can guess the number of parents actually received the paperwork and it was for whom it was clearly explained. I'm serious.
I'm laughing at Harmony.
Oh yeah, Harmony's no joke. I mean, I think it's pretty true. She has homicidal ideations on it. But absolutely. And this happens all over the place, all the time. It's very easy to push it on populations that you just don't really believe should be reproducing. And I think we have to be very, very clear and wise when we're having conversations about it, because when we're talking about responsibility, this is yet another way to make the women and girls responsible, potentially long term. And again, we're talking about, you know, some aches and pains and head cold for men, and these women are compromising their fertility. Many of them don't even realize that they're doing it.
Right.
They do not explain these things to you when they're offering you Depo-Provera. I have experienced, this is going to help your endo, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Find another way. You know, with all of the medical technology we have available, and I know that there's nothing out there that's perfect, there are things out there that are better than I might end up in a mental hospital because I became a hatchet-wielding maniac. There's but a better way. Find it.
And again, it goes back to not letting things happen. I'm trying to think of the circumstance when my daughter was in 7th grade. There is no way that I would have been okay with her being on any birth control. I would not have been okay with her having sex. My choice for her would have been to use condoms. If that was going to be an issue, it wasn't an issue. Thank you, Black Baby Jesus. But people not informing themselves, people not educating themselves about
Anything.
making choices that, and I want to be clear because I already know that there's probably some people, not necessarily on this is not the COVID vaccination. This is not that. This is not that. This is, again, you know, rinse, wash, repeat, not new, SARS. There was already a vaccination in the work 15, 16 years ago. They tweaked it. We do know that people who have the vaccination they can still contract it, but they're having a far better experience than people who don't have the vaccination and are ending up in the hospital. This is not that.
Right.
This was experimentation. And I know that it was experimentation because I know when Depo first kind of popped up on the scene.
It was one of the first few drugs that was in a live trial for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gardasil was. It was whatever the it's not temporary approval. What do they call it? Provisional or emergency type of approval. Depo was a long time, and it was harming people, and they knew it was harming people.
And just the introduction of a drug to a child going through puberty, you know, and you know, Desiree is saying we would come in to talk about STDs and protection, and the teenage boys kept talking about how their girl was on the pill or Depo, and it's like, and again, zero responsibility for where he's sticking his little pecker. And who else he's sticking his little pecker in, and how he gets to run around and just be the man, you know, like all of that gets reinforced over and over and over and over and over again. That all gets reinforced that they don't have to be responsible, that that's not their issue.
Right.
Even against themselves. It's, you could still come up with a sexually transmitted disease.
Right.
You could still, and you know, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of young people especially, sexually transmitted infections lay dormant sometimes in people, or they're asymptomatic. And so it wasn't just about not protecting their partner. It's like they were being given permission to not protect themselves.
Right.
You know, and that's the part that I think is really frustrating, is because the gullibility of youth allowed that to happen.
Well, but it's worse than the gullibility of youth, though. It comes down to the conversations that we're having with children about sex. and all of these other things. You know, it's this taboo topic. On one hand, you know, we can't
Mm-hmm.
talk about it. I just would never want to talk about my poor special little cupcake about sex. They don't know anything about that. Meanwhile, they've been watching porn since they were 4. I mean, like, give me a break here. So we're not having these conversations, and then everybody is shocked when something happens, and you know, either there's an STI or an illness or whatever it is that happens, or somebody gets pregnant, heaven forbid, and then it's I can't even believe it. Well, why is there no sex ed? Da, 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 da. Well, parents, welcome to the mirror. You need to look at that. You need to look at the deficiencies and maybe the way you were socialized, because these kids are learning about this stuff much younger and in more graphic ways than we did.
Very graphic. Yeah, that's such a great way to put that, because it is. And it, you know, the thing of it is too is it's like then the kids are wholly unprepared, right? Because sex has been so taboo. It has been so, we're not even going to talk about this. We're not even going to discuss this. We're going to pretend like you don't have a vajayjay and you don't have a pecker. We're just going to pretend like that. And you know, again, it's like, but we can't pretend. I know, except for the child of a nurse, and I was a
Lawrence
child
was
of a
no.
nurse,
Lawrence
and
no.
4. Well, maybe not 4, Brian, but but Brian, so we're going to go back a couple months, Brian, and remind you that let's think of how little is being taught. Don't.
Hey, you're not 4.
He is not 4. But let's think about how little is being taught, and they're pulling it back because everyone wants to say, oh my gosh, that's something that parents should be talking about. Oh my gosh, you know, we shouldn't be talking about that. That's taboo. We should be telling our children to abstain. But while we're pulling back even more, if you knock my plants over, I am going to peel your skin. But then we have this thing called the World Wide Web, and they have access to it. They have unfiltered access to it. While
Absolutely.
people over here are going, no, 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 we're not going to talk. Annie, all day. If he was home all day, all in the morning, yeah. It's the most ridiculous thing. No, don't tell them anything. Don't do anything.
Well, think about it. No, I want to
But they
interrupt.
all have
But
these.
think about going back to age 4. You know, what little kid didn't play I'll show you mine if you show me yours? And the way parents react, that sets the tone.
Yes.
Even then, when they're that young, it's, you know, this shaming thing, like, oh my gosh, you looked at his peep. Well, I mean, he's got it there, and they're 4 and they're curious. And if you make it this taboo thing, you're already jacking up their relationship, A, with their own bodies, B, with somebody else's bodies, and then C, you're probably not going,
Harmony.
not your relationship with other people's bodies. Yes, of course, are. But also, then you build walls when you do that. I really, really think that. And when, like Annie said, everyone hates on Freud, but like he was right about sex being formative. Exactly. If you look at other cultures where sexuality and the body and all of these other things are just a normal part of doing business as a human on earth, you have a lot less of these taboo things. You don't have the pregnancy rates that we see in the West, particularly in the United States. And we do this to ourselves, and then something goes wrong and we blame the kids, we blame the whales, we blame global warming. Everybody's at fault, but we as the parents need to be doing a better job at educating our children, and that's it. Because they're going to get the information from their phone, or even worse, I would rather them get it from their phone than get it from Jimmy Ding Dong next door, who's going to be telling some sort of stories. You know what? My mom calls it a penis, but it's really a secret ray gun. And I should stop it. You know, I mean, like, you don't know.
Jimmy Ding Dong. I swear my daughter has a machete only for bushwhacking on the horseback trail. Oh my gosh. Okay. At the end of the day, it creates a circumstance when you don't say anything. It creates a circumstance for the kids to not ask questions. So now they've done this thing. Now they're all, because I got a house full of boys. Now they're all wet dreaming, and they got to wake up and deal with the mess they've made, but they don't know that it's like everybody makes it. Well, not everybody makes a mess. That y'all make that mess because y'all know what to do with that yet. But right, you got to ask the questions. I keep telling the dads, Annie. I keep telling the dads. I'm like, okay. First of all, the kids are cute. Got some really good looking boys in this house. That's number one. Number two, they're teenagers. Y'all need to have the conversation, or I will have to embarrass them and have the conversation myself.
And you need to have it for them once. Is a conversation that has to keep being had.
Oh yeah, and at different levels and at different times and at different, they keep asking me, so are we allowed to date? And I'm like, what is dating to you? And they're like, well, I'm like, we have to have a clear understanding of what dating is, because there's what I believe dating to be and there's what you believe dating to be. And I'm like, okay, let's just start at the top. Is dating having sex? They were like, no. And I was like, okay. I said, is dating kissing? No. I'm like, then what the hell is dating to you? I'm like, obviously you like somebody and they probably like you back. So what is dating? But you got to have the conversations, and and they have to be open, and they have to be honest, and they have to be real, and they might have to be uncomfortable. And, and it's like, and you can say that they're uncomfortable, but you have to, like, with all of the stuff that they have access to, and in the egregious ways that they have access to it, you have to be realistic about where your kids are going to get their information. And apparently there's a ton of kids dying from a pill that they're ordering online.
What is that?
You can apparently order, oh my gosh, it's not PCP. What is it? It begins with a P. It's a bootleg copy of it's not Oxy. Come on, studio audience, help me out here. But it's a P, and you can order it online, and kids are dying from it. It's not PCP, and it begins with a P. Yeah, I will try to find the article, but they are taking it one time, just once, and they're dying.
Mm-hmm.
And these aren't necessarily, like, one mom was like, there's nothing wrong with my kid. My kid wasn't depressed. My kid was doing well in school. She's like, I know that, like, I don't think her kid was depressed. I think her kid was just like, oh, this is cool. This will make me feel good. Awesome. No, Doug.
Sorry, Doug.
Porn. Well, I guess one could argue that it depicts authentic, healthy relationships for about 30 minutes.
Well, I don't know, because when the pizza man comes over, no, sorry. I don't think so.
So,
yeah, 30 minutes. Annie meant like 4 minutes. Pizza guy, whatever.
There has to be the opening scene, Annie. Come on. There has to at least be some dialogue, some intro into said parlay. So now, if you
the preamble.
No, so this is because I gotta throw some good in there, because that's crazy. We just did the crazy. So my son came to me today, and there's a whole bunch of crap going on.
I'm sorry to interrupt, on Snapchat.
Yes.
Deadly.
Yeah.
How do you know this? Anyway.
Yeah, because I have to be more aware, because my kids are on these things. Like, when they show me, because I'm not gonna go on TikTok. Thank you, Percocet. I'm like, it was a P. Yes, thank you. I'm like Jeopardy.
She's like the pee pills. Okay, I mean,
It's like
just
I'm
urinary
across
incontinence. Like I
I'm a
don't.
cross between Family Feud and Jeopardy. It's Jeopardy Feud.
It's painful, painful. I'm like,
I was close. I said it was a P. So
and a
yes,
pill. Yes, you have that
they
too.
are buying bootleg Percocet, taking it, and it's killing them. Yeah. And so yeah, yes, Martini, you are correct. Not the way teens consume it. He's back to porn. It's short, nasty clips, no intro, no. And then get to the point. Literally, get to the point.
Yeah, and P.S. She didn't mean he was like back to porn. I mean, I'm just saying, Martin's not like that. I'm just saying.
How's that
But
porn going, Martin?
yeah,
So
I mean, I mean, definitely, there's, there's always going to be that piece of kids learning things from kids, and you have the conversations, and like, there's no perfect way to parent, but you kind of have to do something. But you know, I can't exactly figure out why certain kids go this way and other kids go this way, but I can tell you that having conversations, and the other thing is, like, I was afraid of my parents. And we had a good relationship, but I knew that if I got caught doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, there was a very large likelihood that I would disappear. And it would be them. And,
into the nothing.
for certain, I mean, there was no doubt. And we weren't friends. My parents were not my friends. And, there was no like smacking each other on the back and cursing at each other. Like, we didn't do that. There was a definite line of demarcation where I
Yes.
was the kid and they were the adult, and that was the line that was drawn. And I think that when your parents are established to you as authority figures,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to take the information from them, but it's not going to be as valuable until it's challenged by,
Yes.
the people in your peer group. And then once that challenge happens, that's when you really kind of figure things out. And I put it this way, I was not going to go down as missing. I was not going to end up on a milk carton because I like stepped out of line and did something that embarrassed my parents, and that was it. And I'm not saying they would have killed me, but I had a healthy fear of that. And I think that nowadays, and this is just supposition on my part, I don't know, but I know that a lot of people want to be like mates with their kids. And when you are friends with your kids, then what you say to them doesn't have value. I would have been safer in jail. Oh my gosh, Harmony, I'm telling you, my mother dropped me off at this party, and this was pre-cell phones. She dropped me off. She drove away. I walked in the house. I was like, oh no. It was like Weird Science. Like, it was one of those parties. I called. I was like, Dad, tell Mom to come back and get me. Like, please, I'll be waiting. I'm not going to be close to the house. I'm going to be at the edge of the driveway, at the very, very edge. I will be on the community, I mean, the public property edge of the driveway. I'm not stepping in the grass because I wasn't going to get caught at some rager. I wasn't going to do that to them, and I wasn't going to do that to me. And that was really important to me. And I feel like Harrison has that same relationship. One, because my mother is still crazy, and so he's a little bit afraid of her, and he knows I'm a little bit bananas myself. So, but I think it's important. And because we have that relationship, he does come to me with things. Probably not
Mm-hmm.
everything. I'm not going to guess that he does. But I do feel confident that when he doesn't come to me, he will go to another adult before,
Yes.
like my uncle, who he's very close to, before he goes to Jimmy Ding Dong.
Well, and we had that conversation, and we had to have a very frank conversation. And it's not about like I don't want to know all of your business.
Yep.
I have to trust that we've done a good job, thus far at this point in raising them. But when it comes to the potential for conflict or conflict, I have to know.
Period.
And so that's what we have. We've tried to create a space where, figure out, our kids are parented by 4 people. We've tried, which one do you feel comfortable having this particular conversation with? Because all of us are going to end up knowing about it anyway. It's just who you want to break the ice with. But figuring out a way to keep that door open, and sometimes it's a door, sometimes it's a revolving door, sometimes it's a window, sometimes it's a little bit of a cracked window, sometimes it's the dog door. I don't care, as long as we have an understanding of what's going on, we know what's going on, and we can have open and honest conversation. But no, I do not expect my children to tell me everything. It is also why I'm not on TikTok and why I'm not on Snapchat. When they want to show me something, they show me something. Fine, great. We talk about it. Hey, does this implicate you in any manner? Like, what are you? Because Aries, they have this thing going around at the school. I always forget the name of it because it's just stupid. I probably just can't make my brain remember it. What is it called, the thing on TikTok?
Still my full name.
The devious licks.
Oh, it's called the devious licks. And yes, so this is on TikTok and it's called the devious licks. So for a month in September, for most of September, kids were going into bathrooms and destroying bathrooms.
Oh, I heard about this.
Destroying bathrooms. Like, you gotta call somebody to come put stuff back on the wall. One person, this wasn't in our school, but one person, I guess, the walls between the urinals, they somehow managed to take it down. Yeah. Okay. There's that harmony. Pew pew. The new one. So because we got an email from the high school and they were like, okay, we're still on TikTok challenges and this month's challenge is actually assault. The challenge is for students to smack their teachers on the butt. And so they were like, we must be clear that this is assault, and it will be seen as assault, and it will be handled as assault. So yes, that is what is going on. And so this is what kids contend with. This is what, and it was enough, because they're in that stupid, my frontal lobe is still hanging out over there in the jar. And so they, in the specimen jar, I left my frontal lobe in the specimen.
Stalled. They just didn't plug it in.
And so this is what you're contending with. You're contending with a child who is watching things on TikTok, and then they videotape it. And they videotape it and it goes on TikTok. And then yes, Annie, I know that. That's why I said it's still in the specimen jar. They're just waiting to. So then they videotape it, and then guess what? For some reason, the school, well, my kid's school, the administration is dumb. They're dumb. They can't figure out who's doing it.
Nope, cameras. I mean, there's cameras everywhere.
They have cameras. And some of them even have teenage kids.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
it's so much of legislation right now protects the perpetrator.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
So much of legislation. And so, like I said, the devious licks for October is to smack a teacher on the butt. So that means in school, because of course, where else would you really engage with your teachers unless you're playing a sport, but so that means they're challenging you to go smack a teacher on the butt in the middle of the school day during school hours. Yes. And there's no, and it's like, wow. And the letter the email that we got from the high school, it was kind of funny because they were like, it was like they were saying in as close to as possible in any which way that they could, like, we will consider this a criminal assault if you unleash your child. Yeah, I mean, it was like they were trying to say every way possible, it's just not going to happen.
But you know, it's kind of off subject, but it's not off subject. Remember we talked about this last year at some point. I believe it was around this time of the year last
There it
year.
is. Smack a teacher.
Smack a teacher. But so when we talk about calling things assault then at school, do you recall last year, and I think it was last September, but I could have it wrong, but a little black boy told a little white girl that she was pretty or cute or whatever it was. And he got thrown out of school, and there was an assault charge placed on this 8-year-old boy. Wait, first of all, I would be dead because my mother had to leave work to come deal with my ass. Oh, for sure. Like, and you don't understand Sissy's mom. Sissy's mom was like this tall, but she took up this much space. She was like formidable. She came, she had this walk, and her eyes were very deliberate. They're like, like Florence was no joke. We could have been down playing kickball 4 houses away, and the hair on the backs of our necks would stand up, and we would know that Florence was mad. We didn't know what it was, but Marco was busted. I'm just saying it was a thing. I mean, dead under the jail. So, but anyway, so, and I bring that up, that assault piece up, because you just said a couple of important things. One, they don't know who's doing it. And yet there's cameras and there's school resource officers and there's all this tech, but they don't know who's doing it. Then on top of it, we have situations where if the minutia is considered to be assault, a word amongst kids who probably are saying this as a compliment. And again, talking about how adults weight words in a way that causes stigma. And then we take something that is a physical act that does harm. I don't care who you are. You walk up behind somebody and smack them in the butt.
Right.
Startles them, it jostles them, they can fall down,
right.
They can fall down a flight of stairs, whatever. I mean, that...
They can turn around and knock you out.
Well, but if they knock you out, then they're probably in trouble. Because we know how to handle issues like this nowadays. So, forever. So, where's the line? And again, this is yet another reason why people need to be talking to their kids, because you don't know where you're going to land in that continuum of the word assault. If you're the wrong kid, you could end up in jail. If you're the right kid, it was a cute little stunt.
Correct. And that's huge. And, you know, that's, I didn't fully understand that, because for you guys who don't know, my son was being continuously harassed at school since the start of school, really since last spring. And so in the middle of him being harassed, the same group of kids, who there is an actual group of kids, the same group of kids was actually playing out some of these TikTok challenges, not necessarily in conjunction with the harassment of my kid. They were just being assholes. And so while that was going on, the administration refused to believe, immediate administration, principal and vice principal, they refused to believe that the incidents were related, even though like all of the kids involved were part of this specific group of kids. They call themselves Retro Nation Boys. Don't care if you live in Wheaton and you're on here. I just don't care anymore. So, but they were all a part of it. Every single kid that had an interaction with my son was a part of that. He showed me on TikTok. He would show me their profile, their little tagline, whatever. And so it got to the point where we had to file a police report. And we had to because he unequivocally had the right to defend himself. And we told him that. You have the right to defend yourself. The school ain't doing shit. Don't care. You have the right to defend yourself. We had to file a police report because we have to have a paper trail.
100%.
We had to show as much as we could that we had been doing our due diligence, more than our due diligence, to get this taken care of, to get this addressed. But we had to have a paper trail that also protected him just in case of the unknown. So while he's simultaneously being harassed, while the school is turning into like so they had this thing where they just stopped. The kids couldn't go to the bathroom except for very specific and designated times, which means they couldn't get water. They can't drink out of the water fountain. They have to have their water containers. He had accidentally left his water container in math class, but you can't just get water out of the water fountain. My son has chronic migraines. He has to drink a certain amount of water a day. So there was like, everything was just being compounded.
He was the one that was being assaulted.
Yes.
He did not. He lost the water fountain privileges. He lost the privileges to go to the rest, because we have to be equal in our dissemination of punishments, which is bullshit. Pardon me. It's crappity crap, because once again, the victim told the adults to handle the situation, and the adults wanted to pretend like it wasn't happening. This bullying thing makes me so mad. I'm sorry.
And this was it was everybody. I mean, it was like, that's what I was saying. While they were harassing kids, over here, pieces of the group would go in and destroy the bathrooms, which was affecting all the kids.
100%.
You know, and so then it was like, you know, they were like, well, the kids need to tell us. They need to tell us, you know, who these people are. And I was like, no, they don't. I was like, why? I was like, why would you put other kids in jeopardy? And I said, oh, and by the way, my son is actually telling you who it is. And I said, and you're saying, well, we can't tell you what discipline was enacted. And I said, just so that we're clear, I said, so the culprit, the instigator, the deviant, they get to retain their anonymity, but the victim, the person who is suffering ongoing harassment, they're just out in the open. And she's like, I understand you. Feels like, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. And I said, well, because you're white and you don't have brown boys, you know. And then I found out that she doesn't even have kids. I was like, you don't understand. And I said, and because you don't understand, and because the discipline policies, which are legislative, this is not onto the school. This is Illinois legislative discipline policy for primary education.
Yeah, you know what though that's called?
I said, it is. And I said, so since you don't understand and the policies aren't really protecting him, he has the right to protect himself, and you're not going to punish him. So, yes, you are correct. We did have the fear of God put in us by our parents. There were just certain things we knew. We knew where the line was. We sometimes might try to, like, you know, scratch at it a little bit, like, but we knew where the line was. We knew what the look was, and we knew when we better just go and wash those dishes,
slink away,
Just like, we knew, and it wasn't questioned. You're right. There's a lot of people who want to be friends with their kids. I'm like, I'm not your friend. I'm not your peer. I don't have 13 and 14-year-old friends. Let's be clear. Like, that's ew.
That's gross.
So, you know, and it's like, we had those conversations when they were trying to, like, scratch at the line and erase the line. And I was like, let's be clear. We're not friends.
Nope.
But there are some parents who were like, oh, you know, boys will be boys, or, you know, I want my child to like me. I was like, I don't give two shits if my child likes me. Where they gonna go? Where they gonna go? Where they gonna go? They don't have a pot to piss
I'd rather
in.
discuss it. I would rather discuss liking me or not liking me as adults. when they're 45 and have done a lot of therapy at dinner, than having to go see them in jail when they are 21, because I never established the appropriate boundaries for them and they never learned right from wrong.
It's not even about love, though. My kids love me, that I know. And I did, and I was like, I was like, look, here's the deal. I love you always. Sometimes you get on my nerves and I don't like you. Deal with it. We'll try again tomorrow. And it's like, yeah, there's a ton of people who just don't want to raise their kids. They don't want to be in the uncomfortable positions. They don't want the attitude and the rolling of the eyes and all that. It's like, bring it on. Like, let's play. You want to play? Let's play. Because at the end of the day, I got the grocery money. So you will eventually be hungry. But, one of the things that I was very proud of the way that my son handled himself. And it's a very challenging, difficult situation for him. And it was hard. It was very hard. And it's easy to be like, yeah, let's just go to another school. I got brown boys. They're going to deal with this in some shape, manner, or form for the rest of their lives. No, you can't leave. You stand there. And then when things look like they were going to be a little worse, I said, keep your phone on you. And I said, text me. I said, I gave you permission to use your phone. I said, you have my permission. And I'm okay with that. And I said, they can deal with me.
The thing about the bullying piece, though, is yes, absolutely, it is augmented 4,050%. Don't ask me where that number came from. When we're talking about Black and brown kids in general, but the bullying situation goes so much farther beyond just that anyway. There's an issue in our district right now where, in the middle school, this poor little girl has been terrorized and tortured. And, her mom posted on Facebook that the poor little girl tried to commit suicide.
See?
These parents have gone to the school, and the school said, you know what, let's just give it a few weeks. Give it a few weeks. School just started. Again, that is the adults failing and the kids having to deal with the repercussions of it. Boundaries weren't placed by the district, the school. These laws that are enacted by these states about bullying and blah, blah, blah. Well, our local district doesn't even report any bullying. They say that they've had 0 cases of bullying. Well, I know you're a liar if you're saying that, because that's what kids do. There's a certain element of bullying that is a rite of passage, that kids are either bullied or they bully for a spell in their lives in some way, shape, or form. Now, don't say, my daughter would never, ever do such a thing because she's a pretty, pretty princess. She might be one of those mean girls that, at school,
she's a pretty, pretty, pretty princess.
Holding their hands over the lighter because if you don't do it, she's going to beat you up or whatever it is. I'm saying that, again, it comes down to the way the adults manage these situations. The schools need to be held accountable. In my opinion, at this point, between social media and the press, parents have a lot more at their disposal than they did back when we were kids. And you have to exploit it because these districts have PR machines. They have all kinds of leverage that they can use to keep things squashed. And then the other thing is that they protect their own. They absolutely protect their own. The teachers are going to protect the kids that they like across the board. And kids are just, as you would say, food for fodder. They're just thrown about. It's a problem.
But why should school just started? So let's see how things.
If it was a problem last year, why would it go away this year? Because somebody planted the magic beans? It doesn't work that way. Kids, people that are bullies go after the low-hanging fruit. And once you've been punked, they're not going to stop until somebody else gets punked, or you leave, or something else happens. And that's it. Right. And Desiree, I'm sure they are the all lives matter folk. 100.
Or the unvaccinated lives matter. It goes back to compassion.
Empathy.
You, why would,
There they go.
why would you, why would you make someone, hey, I can see that you're uncomfortable. I can see that you feel hurt. I can see that you feel all of these things. But hey, why don't you just, why don't you hang out and see if this passes? Why don't you hang out and see?
I hope you're not as well, Doug.
You know, Brian, okay, so Brian,
My parents
listen.
were,
Brian, listen. I want you to listen. Your statement is very privileged. Your
why?
statement, oh, that's a privileged statement. That's, oh my gosh. We are a black brown family that lives in a predominantly white,
Listen, my parents did it. Listen,
um
I don't care when it's your kid and your kid is being hung up. You,
that is something that I would do, but that is a huge issue in a lot of circumstances like this. I'm actually talking with a friend about something we want to do. I don't mean to be cryptic, but there are, okay, so let me just explain this in this. So when the projects broke up in Chicago, there's a bunch of projects, low income housing, however you want to call it, and then they made all this mixed income living, right? There's a lot of projects in the city of Chicago, and about 20 years ago, they started tearing them down. Um, those vouchers, we call them Section 8 here. I don't know if is that a universal or not a universal, but is that a, I think everybody knows what that is, right? So you get subsidies for your housing. So the rent might be 1,200, and then the Section 8 say, oh, we're going to cover 600 or 700 of it. So you only have to come up with the other part of the rent, right? A lot of the Section 8 vouchers, they were dispersed to the suburbs. That's where people went.
right. Same.
A lot of parents, there's a feeling of, it's mixed, right? Because they're like, oh my gosh, this is Pleasantville. What a great place to raise my kid. You know, there's not all this craziness of the city. But there's also, for some of them, you can kind of see it. There's this, I don't know if reticence is the right word, but it's like a step back of, I shouldn't make waves.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you have a child that's being bullied, in the circumstance that we were just in, one of the Brown boys who was involved, who was, is there a word for when you literally join your bully so that it's safer to be with them than to be off,
It's
whatever that is?
from almost.
Okay, his his mom is terrified. She wasn't going to the police.
Then her child gets eaten, and then she's terrified there. I am sorry. I am sorry. And this is a hot button for me because this is what happened to me when I was bullied. This is what I mean. This troglodyte came from wherever into our district, and what she started doing was creating a posse. And I mean, people that had been my friends were like, yeah, I know we were friends, but it's much safer for me to be over there.
Mm-hmm.
And their parents said the same thing. So my parents had to handle shit. And you know what? At the end of the day, again,
Troglodyte, I love that word. Yeah,
it's one of
one of
my
my
favorite.
favorite movies.
But at the end of the day, if you're not teaching your child right from wrong,
Yes.
then I don't care where you come from, and I don't care what it is. If you're not teaching your kid right from wrong, then you cannot be upset when your kid commits a wrong, and you can't be like clutching pearls and whining
Right.
it because you failed. And I am sorry, but it is teaching your children empathy. It is teaching them compassion. It's teaching them about values. What do they value? And being in that position where it's like, you're going to be eaten if you don't join me, I completely understand that. But that's when the kid goes home and talks to their parents, and their parents have to step in. And if their parents do not step in, their parents have thrown them to the wolves. And
She's
I
a white
can't have
woman.
that.
She's a white woman raising a brown kid, and it's a different thing.
You know what? But
It's
she's a
a
white woman. She's got more slack than you would have, for sure. No. Mm-mm.
I think that's a
Give me
phenomenon.
her number.
I think that's a phenomenon. Like, honestly, I think it's a phenomenon. And
If
I
you
think that
can't
they
handle
get into certain
responsibility,
circumstances.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if you can't handle the responsibility of raising a brown child, then you should not have put yourself in that position to begin with. You're going to just leave that child to fend for himself? Oh, I give you this. I'm sorry. No.
And I don't think,
I,
and I don't think she's like sitting down and watching chaos. I don't think it's that. I think it's just, it goes beyond just being a child. It's just not raising a child. If you're white and you're raising brown children, that's a whole different level,
but you
because you
still
don't
have,
get it. You have
and
to
if
do it
you're not
for
going to use that
sure.
advantage, what do we talk to people about being allies? If you're going to be an ally all the way. But if you're going to step into that
Correct.
position and say, I'm kind of an ally because my kids look really cute because they're biracial or whatever it is. So they're super cute. And I like that part of allyship, but I don't like the part of allyship where I have to stand out there and take bullets for my kid. Oh, no, I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It was an interesting conversation, because she looked in Tasha, my partner in crime, my other partner in
I've been
crime.
misbehaving for the past 5 minutes. I apologize. I'm like sweaty. My face is getting all shiny. Like, I'm like having
I
flashbacks.
made
Over
I
here.
made Tasha laugh in a very serious meeting. She had to drop her head. We had masks on. I'll say it again. I told the vice principal she was a blip on the radar. And I was like, nobody remembers their high school. Um, Nobody remembers their middle school vice principal. Nobody remembers, and there's a reason. So it's
Mr.
they're
Maccarelli.
not, nobody except for Misty.
He
Jeez.
actually left the upper elementary school and followed us to the middle school. I remember Mr. Maccarelli. He was a good guy.
Upper elementary school and okay, follow. Okay.
Upper elementary school is 5 and 6, and then 7 and 8 is middle school or junior high.
Is that like some East Coast crap? Upper elementary school. Everybody else just calls it elementary school, but y'all gotta be upper elementary school.
Well, the elementary school is for the knee biters, and they go up to grade 4, and then upper elementary is 5 and 6. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense.
I feel like my son is burning something. I really need to go look, because there's a very strong.
While you're doing that, Brian says, my 29-year-old daughter was bullied 3 years ago by 2 guys. Daddy put them on their asses for it. I spent the night in jail for that. Listen, my Uncle Kenny, who just passed away, God rest his soul. I mean, this is the type of thing he would do. Honestly, my world feels a little bit more bleak without him in it, because I'm telling you, like, Uncle Kenny would do anything for me and my sister. And and my dad passed away years ago. So it's weird not having that, not that I can't fight my own battles, you know me, but it's weird not having that daddy presence that's going to go and whoop some ass when you need it. I just don't have that. And that's why I have knives. Anyway, you're back.
And that's he's making candy. I don't even know.
I wouldn't even ask questions.
Mm-mm.
As you were saying.
No, it's all of it lacks compassion. All of it is this idea that
thank you, Allie.
We can go about, because you got to remember, guys, these are those formidable years. This is middle school. These are the years where kids begin to think outside of the box of their home. This is when they, you know, they begin to realize, oh, I have a mind of my own. I have beliefs. I have opinions. And they may still be like, ooh, but there's food at home. So
Well, there you go. I mean, that's it. Tasha solved it.
and I don't care. So, because they got to come to the garage with the guy holding the axe. So, um, no, so these are the years where they start to realize, I know that's what my mom said, and that's what my dad believes, but I don't necessarily have to align with that, even if they're not doing anything wrong. I'm not even saying like it's not. It's just this, like, their individuality starts to come out, right? Their sense of style, their sense of who they are, their sense of how they want to be friends, and how and what type of friendships they want to have and attract. So when you're not giving them a smackdown ever so often, and you're letting their freak flags fly, these are the adults. These are the high school assholes who then turn into the adult assholes. And
And then they become police.
mhm, mhm. So when I when I look at things, I said to my little guy a couple days ago, I said, I'm so proud of you. We were coming from art class. I said, I'm so proud of you. And he goes, really? He's like, whew. And I said, well, why do you seem surprised? But he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, I was so worried. My grades. He's like, my grades aren't so good right now, Mom. And of course I know this. And I said, okay. And he's like, well, aren't you mad? No. And I said, do something about it. I said, I'd rather you be a good person. Do I want my kid to fail sixth grade? No, I don't want my kid to fail sixth grade, but it's sixth grade. It's sixth grade. He's got to get acclimated to it. They spent the year off. I'm like, and to be perfectly honest, as much as I care, I don't care. I want my kids to be good people. I want them to do things that entice them, that appeal to them, that make them smile. We were just coming from his art class where he was having a discussion with his art teacher, and she was asking him, can you choose something else than one of your characters to draw and paint? And he was like, no, why? And so this is this banter that goes back and forth, and then he tilts his head to the side and bats his eyes. And this time he was kind of preening towards her, and I was like, oh, I think he wants to show you that he got his ears pierced. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And I was like, wow. I'm like, he completely just distracted her. He's gonna pick the character that he wants to pick. And I was like, flawless. Flawless. Couldn't ask for a better kid. Like, what do I care what your grades are in school? When you decide something that you really, really, really want, and people, I do care. I do care.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's confusing you for being a laissez-faire parent. Um, but, boys are different, I think. I think that, one, like you said, the prefrontal cortex is still waiting to be packaged at Amazon and sent in. But I also think that boys need to figure it out on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Girls are more likely, I mean, and listen, as wild and crazy as girls can be, in certain ways, girls want to color in the lines. Even if they redraw the lines, define the lines differently, use somebody else's blood to create the lines, whatever, there's a certain level of order, I think, that comes with young
Mm-hmm.
girls. I think young boys are chaos incarnate until they hit a certain age, and then things just kind of start to fall in. I think middle school is when things are starting to fall into their
Yes.
Yes. And so, nobody thinks that you saying I don't care means that you don't care. What it means to me anyway, because I'm the same way with Harrison. If I screamed, yelled, set him on fire, set myself on fire, set his stuff on fire, I mean, if I did anything with fire, do you know what he would say? Eh. Why
It's
are you
also
so
just,
mad?
I
I
don't
like
want them
want
to, and I don't want them to lose themselves in trying to be the perfect student or get straight A's or, like one of the classes, I'm like, it's like a glorified study hall. And I'm like, why? I'm like, why is there a grade in this class? I'm like, what are you grading?
just
He
grades and
has, yeah, and it was like, and it was just, and it was like, it's hard for me. Like sometimes I have to take a step back and I have to go like hide in my closet because I'm like, can't you figure out what they're good at? Can't they just go to school and you figure out what they like and you throw a bunch of, you throw a bunch of stuff into the middle of the gym. You're like, hey, go pick the stuff you like to do and then shape class around that. Do you know how much my son loves visual art? Do you know how much math there is in visual art?
listen.
Do you know how much
Uh,
science there is in visual art?
Golden rule. I mean, so much of what visual arts is. Listen, schools fail kids because they want, and this is all kids, girls, boys,
Mm-hmm.
others, because they only want to teach the kids that color in the lines.
Yes.
And those kids are going to
Yes.
color in the lines forever, and they're going to become accountants, and they like numbers and they like lines, and that's it. But there's so many other kids, especially now, where
Mm-hmm.
everyone wants to put kids in these stupid ass boxes where, you know, we want them to do STEM and we want them to do this, and they need to decide where they're going to be for their whole life by the time they're 18. And it
Right.
hurts the kids every time because you're losing something. They're not getting to explore their creativity because, like Harmony says here, only the school only cares about their test scores and how much money
Yeah.
those scores bring to the district. There are
Yeah.
so many things that kids are denied because our schools want to keep them in the box. The only thing that's important is the box. And it's problematic because when they get older, when they're at their third year of college, because now it's money. Now kids are paying for it and their parents are paying for it. They've gone through 3 years of college and they're like, oh crap, I really, really didn't want to go into aeronautical engineering. I'm sorry I went to MIT because what I really, really want to do is paint.
Annie, they're not going to compete against the Chinese or any other Asian for that matter because we don't believe in science.
That's right. There's the mic. Thank you.
we so and the Chinese and the Japanese and the Koreans and they're all just sitting there sipping tea going, just slow down, dude. So you don't go too fast. The Americans, they haven't just stopped. They're going backwards.
Moonwalking
So
backwards. Yeah.
so they don't have to start stimming for it because and you're not even really sure. I wonder if by 2030 H2O will be like something else.
Well,
It'll be like
it won't matter because there won't be any.
they'll change the elemental chart. So yeah, I mean it's looking at always, always what's in front, where you want to go. Um, listen to it. Listen to a. Hope it would be Pepsi. Listen to on one of the on Cora conversations today, and Martini was talking to a teacher from Greece, and she just said something that was just so it was so simply profound, and she just said it like, how come everybody doesn't know this? And she just said, it's not really about the equipment. It's about what's within. It comes from within. You can't affect the external stuff, right? You can't affect the things if there's no effect here. And that's just what life is. we want our kids to, I mean, like, I think to get into college now, you have to have like solved world peace, you have to have set on like 10 committees, and be straight A student in all honors and AP classes, and you have to have saved some old woman's cat in a tree and stopped some dog from getting run over. And this kid over here, he got to save 2 dogs, but
And
they're
levitation.
assholes.
Don't forget about levitation.
Yes, but they're assholes.
Terrible people.
Like, the kids are just assholes. And it's like, well, that's great that he saved that dog, but he's an asshole, you know? And it's like, there's nothing coming from within because nobody stopped to say, are you a good person?
Who are you? Do you even know
Who are you?
are?
What
Jimmy
do
Ding
you
Dong.
desire? Right. Jimmy Ding Dong. Yes, Jimmy Ding Dong.
Someone.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, like, for me, it's, I want my kids to be good people. And I think in being good people, I really think that they will begin to look around them and see what entices them, and see, look for people who are happy when they, you ever see that look on someone's face when you just know they love what they do and they do what they love?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a beautiful thing.
And like
And
Annie says here, the worst is when a kid tells their parents who they are and they tell them no. And I know that you've been through this when you're teaching dance, when you knew the kid didn't want to be there. And sometimes it was the most talented kid in anywhere, but
mhm,
they didn't love it. They didn't have a passion for it.
right,
And they were
right,
there because their
right.
mother or their father or grandma or whoever it was said, you need to do this because you're good at it. And you could see that defeat in their face, that, and it was, I mean, it's so horrible to take away from a child their right to grow as a human being on their own terms.
Yes.
It's shameful, actually. It really bothers me. So I get what you're saying. I just wish, I think it's really, really terrible that we deny our children the right to be, because we have to cultivate their ability to produce. All we care
Yes.
about as a society is what people do, who they wear, what can they do for us, rather than who are they? Are they content? Are they a person who is solid in their foundation, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually? People don't give a shit about this. They're much more interested in their kids' street cred and social capital. And, this is why kids wear $500 sneakers to school.
Yeah.
What can that kid sit down and have a conversation of any depth or meaning? What makes you happy? What brings you joy? And if you don't know what that is, then that should be way more important than your geometry test.
Yes. I agree. And I think the ability to be oneself is important. Um, it's very important. And it allows you to see that need, that desire, that want in other people. And any chance we can have a better connection with someone, any chance, just a little, oh, that's my sissy. Hey, Nasha. Um, Anytime we can have a better connection with someone, we're going to empathize with them. We're going to sympathize with them. We're going to have compassion for them. But when you're not teaching kids to connect, when you're not people who are connected, and disciplining your children, just an FYI, disciplining your children, that is a connection. That is making them accountable for their behavior. That is making them look in the mirror and say, that was not a good choice. Or why did you make that choice? Did this choice make you happy? Okay, maybe that made you happy to torment your little brother, but does your little brother look happy? It's all of those things versus you just being able to exhibit what you want to exhibit, and to hell with everybody else. They can eat cake. And right now we need to connect with people.
Right.
And we need people to connect to people, and we need to be instilling that value of connection into young people, because it's one of the things that's missing.
And we can't rely on the devices that they play on, uh, those superficial connections, to count as connections. Because at the end of the day, and granted, I think for some kids who have, um, sometimes it's a developmental issue or whatever it is, some
Mm-hmm.
kids connect in the same way. So I'm not saying that devices and all of those things go away, because some kids can only connect that way. But
Mm-hmm.
what we can't do is only teach them that there's only one way to do it, because there's so many ways to
Mm-hmm.
connect to people that can have a major effect, to the plus or to the minus, for both them and the people that they're trying to connect to. And again, it's, oh, well, my kid just really prefers to, connect in his Xbox game. Well, what does he do when he meets people in person?
Pew pew
Hello.
pew pew.
Right. I mean, but it's true. It's true. When one of Harrison's friends comes over and they are very like, hello, Miss Coffin, blah, 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 and I'm so and so. And I'm like, what? Who are you? I like this kid, because it's becoming a rarity. And
Yeah.
I think, again, it's one thing to have all of these tools and this tech and whatever, but if we're not using it to its positives and leaving it off the table for the other things, then we're relying on it too much. It's not meant to create deep-seated, heartfelt relationships on a heart level, period.
Correct. As always, this is my mantra now. Compassion. It's all about compassion. It's all about seeing from someone else's perspective, even when it's not the comfortable thing, even if you just don't want to do it. Looking and finding spaces and places and ways that you can connect with people, and just, what are you putting out on planet Earth?
And my mantra is, don't be a dick. I feel like if we focus,
Don't be Jimmy Ding Dong.
don't be, that's Jimmy. But I mean, seriously, if we just take a little bit of extra time, if you can't think about it from their point of view, think about it from your own. What is it like if the tables were turned? How would I react to that? Because if I would set somebody on fire, if it was happening to me, I am certainly not going to do it to somebody else. And that is a level of introspection. And it's a very simple level that we can start with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we definitely need to be working on it as adults, because lately what I've found is that adults don't like to do and say nice things a lot. Like maybe some Karens out there. There's so many ways where people could just make a little tweak and have a much better outcome, make a better decision, and always swerve to the left. Always swerving to the left. Not anybody listening to this show, of course, but that's something that we have to do a better job of.
Yeah.
We just do. Like, why is civility taking a holiday? Why is that?
Yeah. Good. Because nobody has to be accountable anymore.
Well, I mean, I definitely think that's a piece, but I definitely also recall there being this whole rallying cry, like, political correctness is bad and we're not being honest and blah, 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 blah. And, political correctness is nothing more than do unto others, say unto others, represent and be unto others. What it isn't is,
this doesn't work for me. Let me steer
I don't
this
like
in
it.
the.
I'm just gonna drop trowel and pee in the middle of the mall. Like, you don't do that. So why
Some people
is it
do.
acceptable? Well, some people do, but that's usually another issue. I'm just saying. But what we need to I think we need to actively work to get back to that place where we can have
Yes.
conversations, we can have discourse. We might agree, we might not agree, but we at least agree that we're going to respect each other's opinion. Sissy says, giving your kids the tools to function in this world without falling apart when they fail. And that's another piece of it. We as adults need to demonstrate that behavior for our children first. I mean, at this point, a lot of people aren't really prepared to teach that to their kids, but we all need to take responsibility for what we do, how we contribute to this millennium, and make it better. And then we can have more nice days and less really bad days.
Yep. Yes. That's what I'm aiming for. The eternal optimist.
I would say that I am a realist with my foot firmly planted in cynicism these days, but I would like to move back to just, my realist nature. I don't like being cynical because it's like, like when you put on a sweatshirt that you wore a few weeks ago and you forgot that you got it sweaty, and then, you put it on, you're walking around, and then you go out and you go to the grocery store, and you're like,
like, oh, that's me.
why do I smell like a ham sandwich? That's what that cynicism is. And I don't like it. I like to get back to the place where I'm just like, a realist. So no ham sandwiches. I challenge myself. I challenge you guys to leave the ham alone and maybe get to a place where you're putting so much good out there that you wouldn't smell the ham sandwich if it was right in your face or under your nose.
If it was smacking you upside the head.
Gross. And I have a pork allergy.
Okay. Yes, Brian. Just something for you to chew on. See what I did there?
You know what I mean. Everybody has done that. Everybody has worn that skunky sweater. Or the sweatshirt that was left in the dryer wasn't quite dry, and then it smells like Doritos. It smells like feet. Not good. I'm just
Oh my gosh. My natives are getting restless.
Yeah, I was going to say, it looks like you've got to go for your house burns down. I don't even think Tasha could help you with that one. So, yeah, we're going to sign off for tonight. But, guys, thanks for joining us. This was a fun conversation. Everly, I don't know if you're still here, but keep getting that love. That is so cute and sweet. And keep posting about it because that makes me feel more.
Yeah, that was awesome. Our little feel-good moment. All right, guys.
And next week, it's Friday again, I do believe. So Friday, 1:30 Eastern time, and 12:30 if you just really don't believe in time. We'll see you then. Thank you for playing in our... Oh, only if she has sweet wine. Uh-oh.
Is that Tasha?
It is Tasha. Of course it is. All right, guys. Have a great, great rest of your weekend or start to your weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Good night.
Good night, guys.